So if you have children that are in high school, maybe a junior or senior in high school, and you're thinking about how am I going to pay for college, college pre-approval is the perfect fit for you. What we're trying to do is we're trying to take the emotions out of sending your child to college and help you figure out how to pay for school down to the penny for 4 years. And so that's what our tool is about. And so for our initial consultation, we basically do a 90-minute session to kind of go over how do you pay for college. We may ask for things like your tax returns, information about your student, like their GPA, their standardized test scores, and taking that information and all your resources, trying to figure out how to, what it costs for various schools down to the penny. So what we'll do is we'll look at 10 different schools and take a look and see what it is, they cost, and actually how would you pay for it. So as an example of a school of how we focus on how to pay for it for 4 years down to the penny. This is an example of a client that has $100,000 of income, both the spouse and both spouses make $100,000, and they have some assets, maybe some retirement money, some money saved up, but they're sending their child to Brown University. Student this is an Ivy League school, so this is what's called a needs-based school. It's obviously high achievement to get in there. But from a financial perspective, this is just an example of how to pay for it. So what we're looking at is you'd have a total cost of attendance in 2 years. So if this is a junior in high school, it would be $78,391 would be the cost of attendance. It includes room and board, books and supplies, travel, miscellaneous. So it's not, it's somewhat to this level, but we're basically looking at that. For 4 years, the cost of attendance is going to be $327,000. So that's a lot for one student. So what we want to do is help parents figure out, okay, how do I pay for this? So in this case, I'm saying if they have 2 children that'll be in college. One's already in college. This one will be attending school in the class in 2021, so in 2 years. And so what they're getting here is they're getting some need-based grants. So that's going to be happening in the first year because they have the first year they have 2 children, and so what we're figuring is this is the net cost. So instead of paying $78,000, they're going to pay $37,000. So that actually seems a lot better, right? So what we want to do is know that in advance. Obviously, after there's just one child in school, the price goes up, but we're looking at a total cost of $209,000, right? And so we're saying if they had $100,000 today in 529 money, maybe they're pledging some assets that they had personally saved up in a different account beyond the 529, we can use that. Remember that your children are not going to be living at home, so we can actually figure out what does that cost or what is that cash flow to you. And then we can actually see that because of their income, they actually qualify for the American Opportunity Tax Credit. That's a dollar for dollar reduction in your income. So we can look at that. Those are all resources. Maybe the student works in the summer, we calculate that. And so what we're looking at is this is the pre-approval amount. So what we're trying to do is ultimately we want to say we don't want that student taking out any more debt than they would earn in 1 year in their first year after graduating college. So if they're, for example, an engineer, they might have a higher income versus if they're a teacher, maybe it's a lower income. So it's a different amount they want to be able to, they would borrow. And so we're trying to show you how that works and give you some other examples. So in this case, they might borrow about $10,000, but then it's $100 and $10 for 10 years to pay that back. So that'd be one school. Another school, for example, if I were to look at Southern Methodist University, in this case, not too far difference in terms of cost of attendance, but yet you can see it's a lot different because they're not going to qualify for as much on the needs-based, and then the net cost is going to be higher. And so the same student, they're going to qualify for some of the same things like the tax credits and things like that, but yet they're going to graduate with almost $1,000 a month in student loan repayments for 10 years. And so the idea is that we want to be able to help students and parents by not having them graduate with a bunch of debt which they can't afford. And so what happens is if you graduate with debt, you're drowning out all the other things you can do. For example, it's harder to buy a house, harder to start a family, or harder to get married, or just enjoy life in your 20s. But if you're the parent, you may be earning the most money you've made in your lifetime, and you're really starting to get to the point where you're trying to focus on retirement. And so for every dollar that you're having to pay back some loans, that's a dollar that you're taking away from retirement. And so ultimately, that's what we want to have you focus on, is how to pay for yourself first in retirement, so that later on you're not asking your kids for money. And that's how the college pre-approval works. The information below gives you an example of kind of the things that we address, and then the other aspects are just different things that are related to investment management and overall financial planning.